Well, good morning, everybody. We're here at our Muddy Pond sorghum mill making sorghum syrup this morning. Brother Pete came in this morning and started the fire at 2 o'clock, and another boy came and helped did the firing at 4 o'clock, and I showed up at 7, and Pete went home and I took over the cooking. But we're going to make sorghum syrup here, and just want to say hello to everybody, and hope everybody will come visit us here at the Muddy Pond sorghum mill.
Family, and something I really have appreciated about the gun.
My cousin Holly and I, along with other members of our family, are 4th generation.
Thrash these seeds out and see if I can get any of them thrashed. Each seed will make a plant.
Adjusting the juice here just a little bit. I'll tell you all about this here in just a minute.
I'm just bringing juice down from that top holding tank where we dropped all of our juice yesterday that we made. We pump it down here into these tanks. It's easier to get it onto the pan from here versus from up at that top tank.
How old were you when you started working at the mill?
I've been here since I was, toddler.
I'm gonna let Isaac go ahead and start the pump.
Most of the time you don't need this, but
So we're out here by the boiler. A couple of months ago, we were having a bit of a difficult time here. The inspector demanded that a plate, that identification plate on the boiler be exposed so that they could see it, and we had a hard time with it, but everything worked out good. The inspector came and the chief came along with him, and everything worked out, and I'll show you all where we found that plate. But today we're actually running this boiler here, and you see that steam pump. I'll tell you all a little bit about that pump. I can't tell you how old it is, but it's an old piece of equipment. You can see there, it was made by the Union Steam Pump in Battle Creek, Michigan. Anyway, this end has a 7-inch steam piston on it, and that end has a 5-inch water pump on it. And so what this does, because that's 7 inches and this is 5 inches, so this end being the 7-inch steam cylinder, that is the motor pushing this 5-inch water pump back and forth. It gets the water out of this tank. How this water gets in, we do have a valve to add fresh water to it, but the return water from the cooking, which we'll see that in a minute, as the steam condensates in the pan, it comes back in this tank. This pump picks up that water out of that tank, pumps it back into the boiler, reheats it, makes steam out of it. We'll go all around here. You can see little pump there. It has an oiler. You can see the little oil bubbles floating up there, and that's what lubricates that piston, and it just slowly keeps pumping. We also have another backup pump that if we have it's high pressure, and you should have more than one pump supply to be able to get water in it. Very critical that the water level maintains above the crown sheet, which the crown sheet is the top of the boiler. If the water level gets below that, a very dangerous piece of equipment. And So that's what those pumps are doing. It pumps the water back into the boiler. Also have a couple of petcocks there. That's steam blowing, and that one's water blowing. Very important to make sure that we have the water in there. And so Isaac has been firing now for a couple hours. I think you're changing over to Daryl or something like that. But right here's back earlier in the summer when we were working on this, when the inspector was making his demands, we had tore this piece off. Fortunately, peeling this up, we found the name, the stamp, the identification stamp right there in that hole. So everything worked out. When the inspector came back, he was not quite as harsh with us, and everything worked out good. We got it inspected, and we're back to running. The top of the boiler has a safety valve. You see that shiny brass piece up there? It's a safety valve that goes up to 125 pounds. If the pressure on that gauge, if you want to go around there and see that gauge, I think he's got just a little over 100 pounds in there right now. But if it goes over 125 pounds, that relief valve goes. It's just a safety feature, very important. And Daryl is putting wood in there right now, and it just burns massive amounts of wood. And the steam goes through that pipe and goes inside the building. And
a dump truck load what holds about 6 ricks.
Something like that. Yeah, you can see the pile of wood there, cut that last night. That should last today, probably 6-7 rick of wood. A rick would be 8 feet in length, 22 inches in, the wood pieces are 22 inches in length, 4 feet high would be a rick. So about 4 cords of wood is what it would take. So yeah, that's the boiler. It's just an old-time boiler. We had an old boiler back in 1987 that we put it in, and there was some major age issues with it. It had been built in 1930, and there was going to be some major repair costs, and we decided to have a new one built. So we had this one built in 1993, but we copied off of an old one. We'll go around the back here and show you what it is. It's called a tube boiler, and what that means is that water is all around tubes and the fire is coming through the tubes. And it has 58 of those tubes. Because we're operating it, I can't really open that up right now. Maybe I can for just a second. Let me grab some gloves. There you can see the fire comes through those tubes, and there's water all around those tubes. And of course the smoke is being sucked up into the chimney. And you can see right up there the chimney. We do have a whistle. Some of the boys will come out here a little later, and we'll blow the whistle a little bit just for the fun of it.
Are we doing this size all day? All right. Here, carry this. What we were running off here. Anyway, but that's how they. Thank you so much.
So the whistle, horn, whatever you want to call it, we call it the whistle. It is actually a steamboat whistle, but some folks that we knew had some friends that had this thing, and we actually traded some firewood for it. But anyway, it's hooked up to the steam pressure, and right now got a little over 100 pounds of steam in that boiler, and it just makes a pretty good loud sound. So I'm going to go blow it for y'all. So we have the juice in these two tanks right here. We also have another tank up there on top that we use just for bulk storage. This is a 500-gallon tank. This is an 800-gallon tank. The two together, 1,300 gallons. And there's juice in those tanks. And it's connected up with stainless steel pipes down to this plastic tube. And I have a valve on here and control how fast the juice is coming out of those tanks onto the pan. And you can see a little bit. I will adjust it. I can adjust it. And the goal is for the cook, adjust that so that the pan doesn't boil over, but yet you have to keep enough on there so it doesn't turn to sorghum here. But back to the green juice, and we saw the green juice being made yesterday, and that's that very juice. As it boils, this green foam boils out of it. That green foam is the impurities. It's the chlorophyll, the green in the juice. It boils out of it and floats to the top. Very, very important to keep that skimmed off. If you do not skim that off, eventually it will boil and churn and become part of the syrup. And that's what makes very strong, bitter molasses, sorghum. The reason I said that word molasses brings me to a point. Everybody wants to know what is the difference between sorghum and molasses. And you will hear a lot of old timers. Daddy and Grandpa said it was molasses. It actually is not molasses. As we saw the mill in the field yesterday cutting the cane, it is sorghum cane. It is the whole juice that comes out of the cane. As it comes on this pan, starts cooking, it takes about 8 gallons of that juice to boil down. And as you can see, as it flows down this way, and you notice these baffles are open on opposite ends. The reason for those baffles, if you did not have those baffles, uncooked juice would cut a line right through the center of it, and we would end up with uncooked juice down at the finished end, and it would churn and mix everything up. Very important for those baffles, and that makes it follow a path. And the cook controls how fast it comes on there, and then between these baffles. But I want to go back and make a stronger point about the difference between sorghum and molasses. As I said earlier, everybody thinks it's molasses. It actually is not molasses. It is sorghum syrup because it's made out of sorghum cane. One of the differences is we here in Tennessee have a shorter growing season. We can grow sorghum cane in 3 to 4 months depending on what variety you have. Press the juice out of it and boil it down, and all it does is make sorghum syrup. Everybody calls it molasses, but it actually is not molasses. Molasses is a byproduct made from sugar cane and also sugar beets. Sugar cane is grown in Florida and Louisiana, and it is boiled down very similar to this. Of course, they have large factories, do it a lot more, a lot faster than what we're doing here. But when sugar cane juice is boiled down, it crystallizes. It is then ran through a strainer, strain the sugar off of it, and the syrup left over is called molasses. You can buy molasses at the feed store. Most of it is not edible for human consumption. You'll see a lot of it in the store called Grandma's molasses and everything else that you can imagine. But it is about 10% that sugar cane molasses and the other 80 to 90% is corn syrup, high fructose corn syrup. And as you can imagine, we are at war against molasses and corn syrup because we are making a healthy sweetener here, totally different from what corn syrup is. Back to my story here about the cooking process. The cook then controls this gate, how fast the juice comes in here. There's another gate right here, and just keep it cracked a little bit, and it squeezes under through there. The ultimate goal is to have it the right thickness right down at that end. So right now, Michelle, Brother Pete's daughter, she is actually the only other one other than Pete, Eddie, and myself that have mastered this cooking process, and she's doing it for me while I'm talking for this video. And she got it a little bit flooded. That's the reason she's backpedaling there a little bit, but she's got the valve shut off. And you can see right here, if you'll come here with the camera, I want to make a point here. The difference in the bubbles. How do we know when it's thick enough? You can use a thermometer. A thermometer is a little bit slow in responding, a little bit inaccurate, because there's really not any solid liquid in there. It's all foam and bubbles. So it's a little bit slow in responding, but it does need to get to about 228 to 230 degrees. So that's part of learning to be a cook. Not to flood the pan, and that you have to have the right thickness when it comes down to this end. And for the viewers, as you can see, less bubbles, larger bubbles. They actually have a cavity down in the bubbles. The old timers called them hog eyes. And it sort of looks like an eye. And I'm keep pushing it back right now because we're just a little bit flooded. Wasn't quite closed there. But as you can see in just a little bit how fast that it changes. Can you imagine from that end down to here, 8 gallons of juice have ran on, and 7 of it has evaporated in steam. And everybody wants to know how long does it take from that end down to this end. Well, really don't know. It's sort of like standing by a creek and watching water running and you see a drop go in. Well, is it here or is it there or over there? Really don't know, but it takes somewhere, we're guessing, around 15 to 17 minutes from the time it comes on that end till it comes off here. But also has a little bit to do, as you can see, if you could see it, if these bubbles were to go completely down, if we cut the steam off the heat, it sets down, it's like a ½ inch of liquid in here. So it looks really deep, but it really is not. Once we determine that it is thick enough at this point, and that right there is good, open a valve right here. And again, I'm not using a thermometer. Michelle doesn't use the thermometer. Pete and Eddie don't use the thermometers. It's a visual thing. We take little samples, and we've been doing it for so many years. We can see those bubbles compared to those bubbles. And that's how we determine the correct thickness. It will vary a little bit throughout the day, but as it comes out here, it goes through a sieve. It is strained one more time. A small pump here picks it up, pumps it up this pipe, over across this cooling trough. You see it flowing down there? Goes back that way, comes back this way, and you see it flowing off there. So we know it comes off at around 228 to 230 degrees. We like to try to cool it to about 150. That way it's not quite as hot on the ladies doing the bottling. And then also, if you put it in containers too hot, it has a tendency to want to foam. And really the reason for that, it actually tries to keep boiling. But back to my point here about, and that is really good. It's a little bit thicker than what it was, but just got a little bit of control on it. It boiled down, and real quickly we make a change. And you see it, once you get it adjusted, you can spend a lot of time on the chair with the gates adjusted just right, and you can sit there and just watch it all. And that's what the cook does. But a little thicker and a little thinner, it all mixes together across the cooling trough into that tank, and down there's where the ladies are bottling it. So I want to talk a little bit about our history here. Yesterday I talked a little bit about Dad, Mom and Dad when they moved here in 1965, and that it was a community effort, actually just about a mile down the road here, where It was a community effort where everybody made sorghum. In 1981, I was 16 years old, and Dad felt like he had enough help that he wanted to set up his own sorghum mill and raise his own cane and be independent from everybody else. And in the end, the community effort completely died. We were the only ones left. But Dad, this very same building here, and we've done a lot of remodeling, it has changed a lot. But he had a pan in here that was 42 inches wide, and I believe it was 12 feet long. Of course, that wall wasn't there, and he was putting wood in on that end, and there was a chimney at this end that went through the roof. And he was cooking on direct flame. Well, I guess it was in 1987 when we changed over to the steam boiler and making steam pressure, and we built a pan that has this welded steam compartment under it, and that is what's making it cook today. When we changed over to that steam, it was an amazing thing. We had many people tell us that our sorghum had improved so much that they thought we had already added the butter to it. And here's the reason why. Even when you think that you are not scorching sorghum, cooking it with an open flame, whether it be wood or gas, you just get a little bit of a stronger flavor to it. The advantage, the wonderful thing about the steam is it boils violently, but it's a wet heat. It never scorches. You can make it as hard as candy and it still doesn't scorch it. So just talk a little bit about, just telling you all a little bit about our history, about how we started here and what we've evolved. It has just tremendously improved our product by changing over to steam. Yeah. So a little earlier we were talking about who all does the cooking, and of course myself, I'm the oldest one, and brother Pete, Eddie, and Michelle has mastered it pretty well. Charlotte here is Eddie's oldest daughter. She's 24 years old, and she can do anything from drive the tractor to split wood to do chores to work fields, and she's also learning to do this cooking and actually doing quite well with it. And once again, the important thing is to control how fast the juice comes on, control the depth of the juice on the pan, control these gates, that gate, but the most important thing is that you have it the correct thickness. And you can see there she's using her own judgment and she's right on it. You see the large bubbles, those hog eyes that the old timers used to talk about, the correct thickness for it to be cooking, the correct thickness and flowing off. The important thing is, sorghum is good whether it's thin or thick, but if it's too thin, it's no fun to have to try to hem it up on your biscuit on your plate. You want to put it on your biscuit and make sure that it stays there. So it's that part of it is all up to the cook. At this point, the cook can't do anything about color. The color is all taken care back there by skimming the green out of it and controlling all that. But Charlotte, young, she's doing a good job learning this trade. So I want to talk a little bit about, of course, I'm also a beekeeper, and so I keep about 120 to 130 beehives, and so all this is my honey right here. We have wildflower honey, then we have sourwood honey, we have wildflower comb honey, and that's what we have right here that we sell. Had a pretty good honey year and have quite a bit of it, and pure honey. A statement I want to say about the honey, that cheap honey is usually not pure, and pure honey is not cheap. So, right there it is. Then I also want to talk a little bit about our barbecue sauce. About 8 or 9 years ago, this is Sherry's recipe. We started making this barbecue sauce. It is 60% sorghum, and then a large portion of it is ketchup, and we use a ketchup that does absolutely no corn syrup or anything in it, and a little mustard and some other ingredients. Pretty good barbecue sauce. We sell quite a bit of it.
All right. Well, I'm going to explain to you what kind of sizes we have, what we have available in the sorghum. And so I've got a little sign here with my prices. So this would be the gallons, half gallons, quarts, pints, half pints, and then this is the smallest one, that's 100 mil or 3.4 ounce. And we have we offer glass or plastic. A lot of people wonder, well, is it the same thing? Yes, it's all the same product, but we offer the plastic because it's not breakable. Some people prefer glass, which is fine. The plastic is BPA free, which is a good thing. And yeah, so those are the different sizes there. And we have a bowl here where people can taste the sorghum, and we have straws. You just dip it in and twirl it. I'll show you how that works. Just like that. And then we have a garbage there. And then we have sorghum suckers and sorghum candy packaged up. And then we also sell the sorghum the sorghum suckers individually if people want, 2 for $1. And then also we have cookbooks. So for those people that don't know what to do with sorghum, sorghum has so many uses. We have several cookbooks that just pertain to sorghum. So there's Grandma's Pantry, which is, it was done up by the Plain people in Kentucky. These two here are done by the National Sweet Sorghum Association. And all these 4 is just sorghum in every recipe. This is our Gunther family table cookbook. It's Michelle and I put that together. It's our family's favorite recipes. And this one here is Cooking with Grace. That's just a general cookbook that our church did a number of years ago. This one here, I think she's from North Carolina or South Carolina that did this one. I'm not even sure right now, but they're all good cookbooks. And then I also have honey sticks, different flavors. They're 25 cents each. The honey sticks, it's a favorite for children, but adults like them too. If they're handy, like let's say if you have a sugar low, I've heard that diabetics, if they carry a honey stick with them, that will help them, if they have a sugar low. So, but a lot of people like them just you can put them in your drinks like tea or just eat it the way it is, like suck it out of the straw as it is. Yeah, I'd just like to invite everybody to come see us here at the sorghum mill. We'd be happy to have people come and see us and buy the sorghum here fresh. You can buy it hot, and you can't get it hot anywhere else, so you can't get it any fresher than that. So please come see us.
So that's the flour. That's making seed pressure. And it comes in with this pan, and that's what's making this water. Look at all that water that's going in there. Big hot flour. Wow. Alright, next over here. See the tank. Y'all saw the horse mixing the juice over there? That's juice out of the horse mixing tank.
What's your name?
Daryl.
Daryl?
Yes,
Last name?
Gunther.
Hey.
I'm Mark's nephew.
Mark's nephew?
He's my dad.
Pete's your dad?
Yes, sir.
You been doing this since you're a little boy?
Yeah, basically since I was knee-high to a grasshopper.
Yeah.
Used to run around here, didn't have a job, and then when you start turning 10, 11, 12 years old, you get a job.
Yeah.
Take 8 gallons of that juice to boil down and make 1 gallon of syrup. That means that 7 gallons out of 8 gallons goes up in steam. Y'all want to come on around here? Everybody come on down. So a teacher or parent, come ahead. Bring it over and slow down. Okay. If you stand right at the edge and let everybody just walk in through it. Come on down, guys. Come on down. Come on down, guys. Come on down. Okay, that's about all we get. So I'm the cook right now. I control how fat, how thick the syrup is. You all see the difference in those colors compared to back there? I have the paddle here holding that back and letting it cook down a little bit thicker. It runs out of that right there.
All right, I'm outside here at the sorghum mill. They've got some items that they set out here to sell, and we're going to look at them in a minute. But this is Michelle Leonard, and her mom is Pete and Doreen. And you've seen Doreen several times in some of our videos. And we're going to look at all the different articles that's been written about the Gunther family all the way back into the 80s. Now, I have looked a few things up on YouTube and found some older videos, but I had no idea there had been so many newspaper articles written. And I didn't say, this is the first time I've seen all these articles. So the Gunther family has been well documented. It's very interesting what they do here. And Michelle's going to flip through a few of these newspaper articles so you can see some of the pictures and just see how many times stories have been written about them. So let's take a look right here. And see, start right here. They've got a scrapbook, and so what we got going on the first one here?
Some of our earliest newspaper clips are from the early 80s, like you mentioned. This is from 1984, and this is the inside of the sorghum mill back when we had a brick base for our cooking pan, and the fire was directly underneath the pan. And then you've got the sorghum pressing operation. You'll notice there's 2 horses and a whole lot more cane that they were pressing by hand. And then over here, we've got one of our current owners, one of the brothers, Eddie. He's the youngest brother, and this was him in 1984, I believe. And this was in front of the sorghum mill as it was then. And then as you flip through the book, we've got articles from 1991 on through the years, and publications from Nashville and Knoxville would come out, as far as more local publications such as the Herald Citizen in Putnam County and the Hilltop Express in Monterey did quite a few articles on us in the mid-2000s.
Now, who would this be, and do you know who that is in the picture here?
Yes, that is a close friend of the family that worked here for quite a number of years. He was good friends with my dad and his brothers. Here we have Eddie as a young man pressing some cane.
This is Eddie?
Yes, that's Eddie right there. And here in 1993, we have me as a baby. It was my first fall here at the mill, held by my mother, Doreen, and getting a kiss from my grandpa, John.
Now, who's holding you in the picture?
My
here?
mom, Doreen.
That's Doreen in the picture, okay.
Yep. This was my grandpa's auntie, Tina. She was always single, and she was a great help to the family over the years with the child caring and things, and she always loved working here at the mill. She especially enjoyed doing the bottling. So that was her, and probably, I don't know the year on that one exactly, but she worked as long as she could. She passed back in 2003. But we just had her here, just enjoying her company in her later years. Let's see. This was me as a 12-year-old doing some bottling. And that same year, I believe that was 2004, we have my grandfather, John. He's holding Isaac. And this is my brother, Daryl. You saw them earlier in the video firing the boiler. They are our field workers. And then going on through the years, let's see here. I always like this one. This is where we're standing out here. It's my grandpa. And different newspapers would also run different sorghum recipes that you could use with your product. That was always nice. We've gotten some good ones over the years from that too. This was me. Just a photo opportunity. They didn't actually let us loose up there. Let's see. This is my dad, Pete, minding the sorghum cooking with me and my sister and brother and one of my cousins. This was a fun caricature of my grandpa that somebody did. These were some photos that were taken by the Farm and Ranch Living magazine when my dad did a diary for them back in 2001, and it's just a farm diary where you do a little paragraph every day for 2 months, and that featured on the sorghum cooking. A couple of good ones of my grandpa and dad cooking sorghum. I just love this one of my cousin Charlotte. She also works here. You'll see her in this video too. And this was a special year. Our sorghum won first place across the nation in our NSSPPA Sorghum Producers and Processors Association contest. And I think that's kind of the end of what I have for you right here.
Got a few over here that we've tucked out.
It's hard to just eat one. Those kind.
So they're just all different newspapers just came, looks like.
This was one of the earlier ones as well, 1987. It shows my grandpa stoking the boiler and doing some cooking on that older pan that we had. Let's see if there was anything on the inside of this one. Oh yes, there's a few. Here's a proof that Mark has been doing this a long time. That is him driving a team of horses, bringing cane back to the press to be pressed from the field. And I think that's about all I had. But we also have a lot of other YouTube videos of people that have come out over the years to make videos with us, and different, I can't think of the word, you mentioned it, things you found on YouTube.
The Heartland series?
Yes, the Heartland series. And other news publications that have come out and actually done video on us. Those are fun to look back on too.
Oh, it's a couple right half of it. Mark half of me. Oh, yeah.
So my cousin Holly and I, along with other members of our family, are fourth generation bakers who are carrying on this bake sale, which my grandmother Emma and her mother Esther Maslin started when my family moved here in the 60s to create a little extra income for the family. And we started doing this when we started making sorghum, and soon people were coming for the bread and the cookies as well as for the sorghum. And Esther and Emma actually made quite a name for themselves in that time, and created many friendships over the years with the people that were coming to purchase their goodies. And we're just delighted to be able to carry on the tradition.
How old was you when you first started baking?
Probably around 12.
12?
Where I made anything that anybody would want to eat. Ruth and Eddie's daughters, Lana and Andrea, would be in Holly and I's generation, and they make our sorghum cookies and our chocolate chip cookies, which are really, really delicious. They do a good job.
So the store's open every day except Sunday?
The store's open every day except Sunday, and then we have baked goods down here on Tuesdays, Thursdays, and Saturdays in September and October when we're in operation at the sorghum mill. So when I was growing up, we always had to come out and strip the leaves and cut the heads and
Don't fight over it, boys. There'll be plenty for everybody.
So that was before they got the presses that ran off the tractor, and before they improvised that and have the press they have now. But we came out here and there would be a bunch of us kids, and we would strip it, cut the heads off, and I'll let Pete tell you why we do that. There's a reason why you cut the leaves off.
Why do we strip the cane? Well, what we're doing here is simply for the show of the horse-drawn mill that we're still running. It's nicer, cleaner to handle, less trash and stuff in it, but it does not have to be stripped. Back in the day, in the old timers, when I was growing up, everybody said it had to be stripped or it wouldn't make quality sorghum. In fact, some of the old timers, they said, and the old timers, they were our customers. And so they said if we didn't strip the cane, they wouldn't buy our sorghum. And we took them serious. We believed it. We stripped all the cane, and it was a lot of work. Of course, back in that time, we were only doing about 8 to 10 acres total. And over time, we started doing some experimenting with not stripping it, and realized that it does cause more trash, more skimmings, especially if you have a lot of wet weather. It can be more of a difficulty. But with new equipment and new ways to do it, we figured out that it could be done and make good quality sorghum without stripping it. Now, I say if you have the manpower and the means or the time to strip it and you feel like it's important, go ahead. But we've learned that we cannot do it all anymore. I mean, we're growing, this year we've got out around 70 acres. You imagine having to strip 70 acres of cane and cut it. There's not been very many. There's a few people that have devised some stripping equipment that is working fairly efficient for them, but the way we're planting it with the row pattern that we're doing it in, it would not work very well for us to strip it. So we're just doing this to show you guys how it used to be done. And as a kid growing up, when I was probably 8 years old, maybe even earlier than that, 6 to 8 years old, I was designated to help the ladies and the older kids in the field, and I would strip the lower leaves, the ones I could reach. A little later, when I got about 10 years old, I got to help chop cane with the older boys, and that was a big step up. So I have done a ton of this in my life. I mean, we have cut acres and acres of this by hand. And you know, it actually kind of feels good to still be able to do this. I haven't chopped cane much in several years, but I can still swing a machete. And we used to cut it. One year we had out 40 acres of cane, and there was 7 of us guys. We had a couple hired guys, including family members and a couple of hired guys. And we would cut cane in the afternoon and squeeze it that evening. And the next day we're cooking it. And anytime there was a spare minute, if you had a minute, you were cutting cane. Now we've got the equipment to cut it. It's probably not this radical, but I used to say I've chewed a wagon load of this stuff in my life. When we were kids, if there was any idle time, we were sitting around, we were chewing on cane just as a pastime. I mean, we would chew stalks of it. And it really is good. It's real sweet. Most kids love to chew on it or suck on it, get the juice out of it. A lot of good memories from that, from when we were kids.
Just chew it.
Sitting around and talking and chewing cane.
Spit it out. Chew and drink the juice and spit it out.
Spit out the pulp. You don't have, you can eat the pulp. The pulp doesn't hurt you, but you know, this reminds me of my dad. My dad was kind of like this. When he was working, when he was in a hurry, he wouldn't stop working. He would talk and work at the same time.
That's where Mark gets it from. He's a good talker.
We all do. we all learned it from Dad. It was implanted in us to work. Laziness was not accepted.
You miss getting to do this as a kid?
No.
No?
No, sure don't. Hard work when there's rows and rows and rows. It feels like it's never going to end.
don't do it much now.
I guess Mark has to do quite a bit of it to take for his demonstrations.
Yeah, he does. He does strip the cane and all that. So he does hire some of it out though. Isaac, I think, and Charlotte does a lot.
So we were talking about when do the leaves change and the weather and all that. It's a big factor. Last year we had an unexpected, unusual cold snap come in real early, and we were going to lose the crop. We still had, I'm not sure how many acres we still had left to go, but it was quite a bit. And we worked day and night, round the clock. We even had a few neighbors pitched in. A couple of our brothers kind of quit what they were doing and came home and committed to just helping us. And like I said, we worked day and night from Friday morning till the following Wednesday. The only time we shut down was a couple of times to clean the pan. And otherwise, we kept on cooking day and night, and we got her done and saved the crop. That was rough. Everybody helped out and did the best they could, and we got it accomplished. So we did prove to ourselves that we can work day and night if we have to. We had to sleep in shifts and get away from it for a while and get some rest. You can't go but so long.
How many acres is that you had to finish out?
I'm going to say we probably had about, at that point, probably 12, 14 acres still left. So get your butts all nice and straight, and then get your arms around it, hug it real tight where your pile stays together. Put one arm under and one arm over. That'll last a day or two. For that horse-drawn mill, here, let me show you. Stand it up here. Even them butts out a little bit.
What are you getting that for? To decorate?
Yeah, and to make wreaths. They make really pretty wreaths.
The horse likes to eat them things.
Yeah. This is good to eat, Ben.
It's okay for the horse to eat them, don't make them sick or nothing?
No, they love them. It's good feed.
And these are the seeds. You can replant these seeds, right?
Yeah, this seed right here has started turning a little bit red. When that whole head gets red, you could thrash these seeds out. Let me see if I can get any of them to thrash. Each seed will make a plant. At this point, they're still a little bit green. They're probably not mature enough to come up, but when them heads turn red, they're good enough to germinate. These guys right here would not germinate yet, but some of these redder ones here would.
Do you grow your own seed or buy?
We usually buy it from another guy that does a lot of this. It's a lot of work to it to save your seeds, and like you saw yesterday, we're going through and cutting them heads off before they get ripe to try to prevent the crop from lodging. And so it's a lot of trouble to save a patch and keep your own seed. I mean, it is doable. We used to do it, but we find anymore it's easier just to buy it from a guy. It's perfectly clean. It's really nice seed. He does a good job of it, and it's not that expensive. It's just easier for us just to buy it.
And there's all kinds of different varieties.
Yeah, there's several different varieties.
You can get some that are a mix where there's white and red and black even.
But they have names like Dale, Della, M81E, Topper M76, Simon. There's probably about 8 or 10 different, and some of the varieties are 110, 120 days. There's one variety that's like a 90-day. So if you had to replant, it would work well to do that, use that 90-day for a replant in case you drowned out or dried out or something. But we predominantly like the variety that's called the Dale. It seems like it's the best all-around variety that's worked well for us for probably about 35 years we've been growing that now. So let's go have some lunch.
Look at that. It was delicious.
I guess I'll have to settle in. There's not a good enough one in there to suit me.
Well, you probably wearing a hat probably won't make much difference on that.
Well, it will if you wear it a lot.
Scrubbing. She's shy. She comes shy.
Well, he talks enough for both of you, so
Exactly.
you don't have to say much. You don't probably get to say much, do
No.
you?
After
I'll
38
have to learn
years,
back.
John, she just learned just to step back.
That's what I
And they be
see.
talk, but she really the boss.
So tell us your names and where you're from, so everybody know.
Robert Gresham, Karen Gresham. We're from Eatonton, Georgia, Lake Sinclair area. Lake Oconee, Lake Sinclair, it's all one big lake that runs into the other. And we seen you on YouTube about 2 years ago when you started filming. Tiffany and them at R.M. Brooks, and then Muddy Pond and Mr. Ralph, I think that's his name.
Ralph, yeah.
And now I seen one the other day, I think he was in Kentucky.
Yeah.
Wasn't you? At a general store up there in Kentucky.
Yeah.
But my question is, and I asked you this a while ago, how in the world did you find these folks, man? You had my GPS confused trying to get over here.
Well, you just gotta talk to people, and they tell you about. I tell you how I found Muddy Pond. You wanna know? I was eating a Cracker Barrel about last year in the fall, and the guy come up that watches my videos to talk to me, and he said, "Y'all need to go to Muddy Pond and go down there and film the Gunthers." And I said, I looked it up on Facebook and found the page, and as soon as I got done eating, I called and left a message for Holly. About an hour later, she calls back and says, "Come on."
Yeah.
And now we've already posted 9 episodes, and we're filming about 3 or 4 more yesterday and today. So a lot more episodes, coming up. And we break them up into about 30, 45 minutes.
You do a great job with this stuff, man.
Well, thank you.
I mean, really. I mean, it's entertaining, but at the same time, it's education.
Yeah.
A lot of people had never seen stuff like this before.
Right.
So you're exposing the real country life. You know how people actually live back in the 30s and 40s and how they're actually living now. So this area right here, if society were to collapse today, these folks right here going to continue making it. You know what I mean?
They're going to be fine.
Right, they got it going on here. So, and that's like Tiffany and them over at RM, if it collapses, they got, they secure for at least, 16, 17 months, I believe.
Yeah, they got.
So, but I was telling the wife here, I said, if society does collapse, ain't nobody gonna come over here and try to take these country folks.
No.
They better leave these country folks alone, because they might find them folks' cars that come over here, but they ain't gonna find the body.
So what do you think about the sorghum mill today?
It's pretty interesting. I haven't seen this happen since 1963. Last time I can remember seeing sorghum being made. And my grandpa made molasses in '63.
Oh yeah?
I've still got his mill in pans and everything, but I haven't got it back in operation yet.
Right. Well, maybe one day you'll get her going.
I hope
this
so.
might be some inspiration here today.
I hope so next year.
Yeah? Well, they got quite the operation going on here, don't they?
Yes, they do.
And you're from Russell Springs?
We're Russell Springs, Kentucky.
And your name is what now again?
Lynn Whitus.
Okay, Lynn.
Hi there, Ruth Gunther. I'm married to Eddie Gunther. He's the youngest in the family, and something I really have appreciated about the Gunthers is all the ethics, life ethics they've taught me that I probably wouldn't have learned if I hadn't married into the family. So one of them being is canning and cooking. I didn't have a clue how to do that when we first got married, and we got married August the 18th in 1998, so 25 years. But yeah, Emma's taught me so much. She'd be Eddie's mom, and his dad, John, really taught so much about the closeness of family working together. And I learned so much from them, and we really miss them. They're both gone now, so. But yeah, we have 4 children: Charlotte, Isaac, Andrea, and Lana. So, yeah.
Okay, at Muddy Pond Sorghum Mill today, I got us some spicy southern chow chow, Muddy Pond strawberry jalapeno, that's for my cream cheese and crackers, and some muscadine jelly. Also, John got some sorghum cakes and peanut brittle.
You doing all right today?
Yes, I am.
That's great.
It's a beautiful day
Oh
out.
man, it's lovely. I love it.
better weather too. No, I hope it's like this the rest of the fall.
It'll be 19. $1 back.
Thank you.
I'm Carson Goddard. I go by Carson. Worked here for about 8 years. This job up here, I enjoy it. You're telling people about the old ways of doing things. Most of the city dwellers don't even know what this stuff is. But the biggest thing here is showing them everybody. I get them all to eat sorghum. They get to taste it. There's the juice coming out, and they get to taste it when I peel it back for them. Give them a piece of it. You tried it that way? Yeah, that is good. But anyways, that's what my big thing is, just to get people up here to have an idea, get them smiling and laughing. I do with the women, I get them all over in a bunch over there with their husbands behind them. And the question is any of you girls chew and spit tobacco? Well, oh no, we wouldn't do such a thing. So I said, well, come on, we're going to teach you how. And then I peel something to get into it. And here, last Saturday, we had a guy up here with his wife, and she was up there chewing it and spit up. He looked at her and said, how long have you been chewing? So it's a fun thing. That's what it is for me. I enjoy it. Today happens to be an off day. I got banged up here a little bit, so trying to get loosened up. But other than that, it's fun up here. It's a fun family to work for. I can't say that I get along with all of them, all the brothers, the sisters. They know my wife. We're part of the family. It's one thing I can say, that you grow into the families here. They don't pick you on enough family members. You're around them long enough, you become part of the family. And that's what John and Emma did for me.
Good, go. Thank you all for watching the Appalachian Channel, and thank you all for watching our story of sorghum making. If you can, come to Muddy Pond and see us. Goodbye, everybody.
Bye.